Welcome to another episode of the Decatur Dish, the show on Atlanta News First, where we talk about all things Decatur, Georgia. I'm joined today by Mayor Pro-Tem of the City of Decatur, Tony Powers. Tony, how are you today?
I'm great, Dan. Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you for joining us. If you haven't watched the show before, this is a product of Atlanta News First and Decaturish.com, local news website based in Decatur, Georgia. We cover Decatur, Avondale Estates, Kirkwood, Eastlake, all things DeKalb County. And Tony Powers is someone I've known for a long time. Tony, why don't you tell the public a little bit about yourself? Obviously, you're Mayor Pro Tem of Decatur. I believe you were elected in 2015?
Yeah, that's right, Dan. This is my third four-year term. Never thought that I'd be in this position where I'd be a career politician, but Decatur's my hometown, and I believe in giving back to my community.
And also a local business owner. You own the In-Town Ace on Scott.
Yes, sir.
If you've ever seen it, it's got the big purple rooster in front
of
it.
Yeah. Our 39th year in business.
39th year in business. Wow. Well, let me know how you did that someday. We're on year 10 for us, so I can use all the help I can get. So today we're going to just roll through some topics that are of interest specifically to the city of Decatur. And I want to start out talking about the South McDonough traffic calming. Now, that's going to be up for a vote tonight. Tell us a little bit about that topic and what's going on
Sure,
South
yeah.
McDonough.
So back in 2020, we fielded a petition from the residents. About 300 people signed that petition asking for help with some traffic calming in front of the College Heights Early Childhood Learning Center. And I like to think that we bring the solutions to the problems, not the other way around, solutions that don't have a problem. And so over the course of the last 4 years, we've worked with residents to come up with a solution for some traffic calming and pedestrian safety in that corridor. Over the last several weeks and months, there have been a high number of occurrences where folks have been either hit by cars or actually some pedestrian fatality. So, traffic safety has been a subject that has really been at the forefront of people over the last several, days, months, and weeks.
And what would you say are the sort of the key issues on that stretch of road? What are the things that are the most challenging that need to be addressed?
It's the entrance to a school. There's a convergence of a slip lane. Now we're, learning a lot more about slip lanes that, they really can be an issue when it involves pedestrian safety. Trying to eliminate that pedestrian safety hazard and also provide, better visibility for crosswalks, reduce speed, increase the pedestrian experience, which is one of the things that has been a hallmark in planning and road construction within the city.
And who has control? Because one of the things when we talk about fixing our local roads, one of the issues is always who controls it. So this stretch of road, is that a city road? Is that a state road?
So in this particular case, it's a city road. So, we were able to last fall implement some temporary solutions to try it out to see how it worked. And, like anything else, you're going to get half the people that love it and maybe half the people that don't like it so much because it's going to slow their commute down. But the end result is we look for, the ultimate goal of safety.
And this petition, as you noted, was submitted in 2020, so it's almost 4 years old. What took it? I don't want to ask a rude question, but what took so long?
The pandemic. I mean, a lot of things happened in 2020. The pandemic happened. We lost a couple of our senior traffic engineers, and it just took us a while to get back to business as normal. We would like things to go a lot faster, but in this case, the world really did end for a while, and we put a pause on a lot of those projects.
So do you think that this will be approved tonight? I know it's up for a vote.
Well, I always look forward to a very spirited community discussion. I don't know exactly how I feel at this point or how the other commissioners feel, but if there's any indication, if the public will is to approve this project, then that's what will happen.
And if it is approved, what kind of timeline are we looking at to see some of these improvements implemented?
Hopefully by the end of the year, Dan. I mean, really, we are engaged with a milling project with our road project, so we look to see something really in the next 3 to 6 months.
Well, we will be keeping an eye on it as we do on all things Decatur. So the other thing I want to jump into, since we're on the topic of, well, actually, we're going to talk about affordable housing first.
Sure.
So talk to us a little bit about what Decatur's affordable housing strategy is at the moment.
Okay, sure. So if we dial it back a little bit, my first couple of years on the city commission, there was a model in place where we'd have a large development and we'd offer the developers density bonuses if they would add affordable housing. In many of those cases, the developers simply didn't do what we thought they would do, or there were barriers to provide, more affordable housing. So one of the things that we actively sought with the city commission was to require there to be a inclusionary zoning ordinance. And that was passed a few years ago. So now with each new development, the developers must comply with our mandatory inclusionary housing zone ordinance. So, this way it guarantees us more affordable housing. Decatur, like any other city in the region, has seen tremendous growth in terms of our housing prices. And unfortunately, we don't have the big boundaries to, we can't make any new dirt. And so affordable housing has been a topic. It has been on the forefront of our last few strategic plans. In fact, it's one of the main drivers in our 2030 strategic plan to create more affordable housing. A few years ago, we had a affordable housing summit, which followed a affordable housing task force, where they delivered some specific deliverables. And I'm happy to announce that we will be breaking ground at Legacy Park for a new joint venture with our housing authority for a affordable housing village over at Legacy Park.
This is going to sound like a philosophical question, but I promise it's not. What is affordable housing? How is that defined?
So every area has their own definition of what affordable housing is. But here in the city, we use a formula that's called the area median income. And for the city of Decatur, we use 80% of what the area median income is. And so each city has their own definition. If you look at specific models, say in the low income housing sector, that may be 30% or 40% of the area median income. But for the city, our definition is 80% of the AMI.
Which amounts to what on a yearly salary?
A family of two, it's somewhere around $80,000, which isn't a lot of money.
Not here.
Not here. And so, it's a challenge. We know it's a challenge, and, a lot of the solutions won't be, magic cure-alls for our affordability problem. But if we can create 1% and 2% solutions where we incrementally add to our affordable housing stock, then I think it's a win for our community.
Do you feel that communities like Decatur and other local communities and cities shoulder sort of an unfair share of the burden when it comes to providing affordable housing? Because it becomes, in my observation, it becomes sort of patchwork. Decatur is a very progressive city. I don't think that's a shocker to anybody watching. And so politically, there's more support within the city to create affordable housing, but in another community that maybe isn't as progressive, there isn't. Is putting it all in the hands of progressive communities to fix, is that really fair, or do we need to do something else?
It starts on the federal level, and it trickles down to the state level. I think each community has their preferences about how they want to do it, but you get to a situation where it's just fiscally unattainable. There's been a lot of discussion about the moral obligation, and I think for many communities it's a moral obligation to provide. We want our teachers, our wait staff. I've had conversations with a lot of the area restaurateurs, and they want to be able to provide meaningful wages, but their people are typically coming from outside of the community. So it's a challenge.
So getting back to this inclusionary zoning piece, where, just to recap for our viewers, inclusionary zoning means when you're a developer and you come in and you create a new project with a certain number of units, a certain number of those units have to be designated as affordable. So my first question is, do you know how many units have been approved as affordable under the new inclusionary zoning ordinance offhand?
Sure. So the new development at East Decatur Station, I believe, is going to have 47 units. There was a Toll Brothers property that was developed at the old AT&T station over in Oakhurst. I think it had 2 units. But again, it's small, it's incremental. It's not going to be something that suddenly is a game changer, but we're looking for those small 1% and 2% solutions. So, at this point forward, any new development over, I believe it's 5 residential units, must have that component in place. So again, 1% and 2% solutions, and if we can, keep adding to that year over year, then we've got something to work with.
So I'm a developer, and I tell you I'm going to build X number of units. A certain percentage of those units are going to be affordable. Mm-hmm. Who is ensuring that that's what happens? Who ensures that they actually build and market those units as affordable on an ongoing basis?
Sure. So right now we've established the Decatur Land Trust. Part of what we're hoping for in the future is for an executive director to be the overseer of that process. Right now it falls to city staff, and it really is a by committee. We hope that people will do the right thing, but in many cases, sometimes things will and do fall through the cracks. So that ultimate compliance will hopefully be a position that's something that we can do through an executive director.
What happens if somebody says they're going to build affordable units and doesn't, and the project's already built, the unit's already there, they're already being marketed at a market rate? What happens then?
It's a great question. I would imagine that there would be, a possibility of holding up a CO till that compliance is met. Right now that is our only leverage. There's a process called as-built where, before those COs are issued, that walkthrough happens. So at least the city would have leverage in that respect.
Well, talk to us a little bit about the affordable housing project at Legacy Park. And I feel I should disclose to the viewers that Decaturish took an editorial position on the affordable housing at Legacy Park. We published an editorial in support of it, so I just wanted to disclose that before we kick off that particular discussion. But tell us, what does that look like? What is going to be there? How many units are we talking about?
So yeah, it's going to happen in 2 phases. The first phase should break ground later this year, hopefully later in the next month or so. It's a joint venture with our great development partners, the Decatur Housing Authority, who are our experts in building affordable housing. About 123 units, again, in 2 phases. They rely on LIHTC, which is low-income housing tax credits, to get these projects built, along with outside private equity firms or development firms that will loan them the money. It's going to consist of 2 separate buildings with units that range from 1 bedroom to 3 bedroom. The first phase should be ready for occupancy sometime in 2025. I think they've already secured their second round of LIHTC funding, which is a highly competitive process. But again, we have a great partner with the Housing Authority, and they've built some really great projects in the city, or developments in the city. So they have a really great track record with the federal government in getting those tax credits to get these units built.
And the groundbreaking on that is going to happen when, you said?
Well, we don't have a date yet. We've been waiting on them to close out a bunch of documents that they need for their financing. So as soon as that date happens, you'll be the first to know, or the second to know.
Hopefully at least the second, right? So I don't want to take up the whole show with this, but we could.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about parking.
All right.
Let's talk about parking.
Oh, yeah.
So Decatur is got a reputation of being a place where it's hard to find a place to park when you want to go out in downtown Decatur. Is that reputation deserved or not deserved?
Well, I look at it this way. When I travel and it's a destination for me, I've never been able to park in front of the restaurant I wanted to go eat. And that's the reality of living in the county seat, but also living in an area where you're in a major metropolitan city. Decatur's still a small city, yet we have 3 MARTA stations. We're the county seat, and we're known as a destination for food. But I will share that, we had a 2017 survey done of parking, and as of 2017, and I'm not sure if the numbers have been updated, there are over 10,000 parking spaces in the city of Decatur that include on-street parking, surface parking, and parking garages.
Do you know what percentage is what? Who owns the percentage of private spaces versus sort of the public spaces?
The majority of those are all private spaces, so the city owns the parking structure with the Courtyard by Marriott in downtown. From there, it gets a little dicey. There's a government parking at the Callaway, the courthouse. There's some parking at the DeKalb Library, and then there are a lot of individually owned, both private lots and public lots.
So where are the free lots in Decatur? Are there any free lots left in Decatur?
There's very few. You know, once upon a time, there were probably 300 to 400 surface lots in the city, and part of the city's strategic plan that, you know, our residents brought to us was to eliminate a lot of, you know, the surface parking to add more, you know, businesses or residents. And, you know, we need to think about a unified structure for that parking. You know, it's difficult when you pull into a place and you're not sure there's parking, or you're not sure that, or you know that it's $2 cheaper here. Just that unified strategy, and that's what that 2017 survey was designed to do, was to give us the tools to implement a smarter parking strategy.
Why do you think the expectation is that there's should be more closer free parking in a city like Decatur? Because as you pointed out, and I just experienced this over the weekend, we went to see Hamilton at the Fox. Great show, by the way. Mm-hmm. And it cost us $15 to park. We actually thought that was a bargain because there are places a little closer that were $25. But that's the case all over Atlanta. There's no free parking in Atlanta that I'm aware of, unless it's adjacent to a business, and then you just go there for that business and then you leave. Why do you think that there's this expectation that Decatur would be or should be different? Is it because it's a suburban city? Is it because it traditionally hasn't been paid? What is the reason, the basis for that expectation?
You know, I think a lot of that is based on, you know, past experiences. You know, as you know, we've evolved from being this sort of sleepy little town. I think 1996, when the Olympics were here and we were a host city for one of the Olympic teams, Decatur sort of hit the radar. It hit everyone's radar, and suddenly, you know, we were no longer this sleepy little suburb, this sleepy little suburban city. And, you know, as that expectation and that awareness has grown, you know, unfortunately, you know, the old adage is someone has to bear that cost. And, you know, as we've seen more development, you've seen all the sort of free places go away. Now, you know, you can argue that, you know, maybe we should do something for our seniors, maybe create some exemptions or, you know, some credits. But again, we don't own the majority of the parking. So once we get a unified structure, maybe we can negotiate some of those tangibles. And a lot of times I hear this from our senior residents, that they can't find the parking that they need. You know, I think, you know, millennials are sort of used to it. Many of them ride, or they ride share. So again, it's a difficult problem to handle in 4.34 square miles, but, you know, we think about it all the time.
As we close this part of the discussion out, I got to ask, what is going on with the county parking deck? Because that used to be free, and that was the best kept secret in Decatur.
Sure.
But I think the secret must have got out because now it's paid. What's going on with that deck?
You know, I don't know why that structure changed. I know that they were implementing some upgrades to the parking deck that are really needed to happen in terms of safety and lighting. You know, maybe that's a question that we can ask our CEO candidates about, you know, why that's no longer free. But again, there's probably a proposition that, you know, it's like there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's probably no such thing as free parking anymore.
That's sad, but you're probably right. There is probably no, especially in Decatur and Metro Atlanta, especially as we work to create more dense housing, encourage people to walk and that sort of thing. Getting back to Legacy Park for a second, and for those of you that don't know, Legacy Park is located on South Columbia. It used to be an orphanage. It used to be the United Methodist Children's Home. Decatur bought that a few years ago and now has turned it into a public park, a public amenity. Mayor Pro-Tem Powers, I believe, serves on the Legacy Decatur board and so has some oversight of that as well. And they are building a track. Tell me about this track. What is it? Where is it?
Sure. So it's a community vision that honestly has been around since I was in high school. The city of Decatur has often had, sort of great athletic teams and never had its own competition track. There have been numerous groups that have, petitioned, rallied, asked for. So finally, with the addition of Legacy Park, that community vision came to the forefront during the Legacy Park visioning process. And I, at one point, said I didn't think I would see it on my time on the city commission. Well, it's happening, and it's the groundbreaking. The official groundbreaking is tomorrow at 2:00. And I'd like to say that, fortunately or unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we were able to use some of our American Rescue Plan funding dollars in order to make this vision actually possible. So it's exciting. It's going to be at the site of the old, if you're familiar with Legacy, there's a ball field. It's going to be at that site, and it's going to be a competition level track with field house, restroom amenities. I mean, it's going to be great. I mean, we are really, really excited about, and it's not only going to serve the high school, which, the city schools of Decatur are a partner in that, but it's also going to serve the community. So it's going to be, a community asset as well.
It's going to be top shelf, as they say. What is the price tag for that overall? Do you recall?
A little over $7 million.
Wow. And it's half and half, right?
Correct.
It's City of Decatur and City Schools of Decatur.
Correct.
Decatur High, I believe they have a track that goes around the football fields?
No? So
I might have imagined that.
Yeah, so I was a part of that group that when Dr. Ida Love was superintendent of Decatur Schools, she had a vision for a new campus plan, which included a new football field, the Performing Arts Center, but unfortunately there just wasn't enough land to locate that track without acquiring some extra property, and at the time the county wasn't interested in selling the Callaway building.
So where has the track team been practicing without a track? Where are they going?
They use whatever space available. I mean, there have been partnerships with Agnes Scott. We've created a cross-country trail now over at Legacy, thanks in large part to community members. It's sort of been hodgepodge, practice in the parking lots, wherever you can find space. But now we can truly offer something that's second to none in terms of what we will offer our student athletes and our community.
Imagine you could rent it out for other events as well. Other schools might come using it.
Who knows? But the intent is it's going to serve our community.
Indeed. Well, we've got a few more minutes left on our show. We've kind of covered everything that was on our list to talk to today. What is something that we didn't cover that you think it's important for our viewers out there watching to know about that's going on in the city of Decatur?
It's great. So we've have a co-responder program that our police department has, and what that co-responder program is, it sends out a licensed clinician to deal with, in many cases, mental health issues. And so many of the calls that our police officers respond to involve, mental health challenges. It's a really great program that, gives a different lens to a problem that honestly is growing in this country and in the world each and every day. And I'm happy that our programs, back online. It was a program that was, at first we shared a co-responder with another community, but we have our own in-house, and we're hoping that it makes a huge difference in our community. I mean, mental health challenges are some of the biggest challenges we see, and without the resources to support them, we're just not equipped.
Another one of those instances of communities being asked to step in and take care of a problem that where they are perhaps outmatched.
Yes.
Mayor Pro-Tem Tony Powers, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll consider joining us again as we get into more issues pertaining to Decatur. This is the Decatur Dish Show. We air every week on Tuesdays at 12:30 on Atlanta News First Plus. If you want to see previous episodes of this show, go ahead and download the Atlanta News First Plus app. It's got this show and a lot of the other great content produced by our media partners and Atlanta News First. Again, my name is Dan Whisenhunt. I am editor and publisher of Decaturish.com. If you want to get the latest news from Decaturish, you can visit Decaturish.com or go to locallysourcednews.com. That's where you can sign up for our daily email. And if you want to support Decaturish, please visit supportyourlocalnews.com and become a subscriber. We'd love to have you join us and help us keep doing what we're doing out here in the community. That's all for today. We'll see you next Tuesday at 12:30.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tony.